You're going to come across these choices where you can sit things out, where you can dance. And I want you to always dance. Was Khabib one of his top sparring partners for the Conor McGregor fight?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the only UFC fighter that has gone undefeated in the entire history of UFC. Is that correct?
Yeah, 29-0. So why I got into the business I'm in now of like coaching, I have like 5 journals of like basically had apprenticeship under the best nutritionists and strength and conditioning coaches in the world.
Kyle Driscoll, welcome to the WillPower podcast. How are you doing today, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, I'm so happy that third time was a charm on this one. You're somebody that I think I actually, like, I've known you since we were little kids. It's funny, we reconnected. That's one thing I love about social media is that you kind of came across before I was even following you, and I was like, I know this guy. And I started looking at all your stuff, and then I was like, dang, this guy's just killing it out there. It's funny that you went to a different high school than I did, but we both met through wrestling. And then to see that you're still pretty much in the same realm of doing things, and we'll get to all that stuff. For somebody that hasn't heard your name, you were a state champion twice in wrestling.
Yes.
Your junior year, you went 49-0. For anybody listening that doesn't know what that really means, is like, that's really hard. Like, how many percentage-wise, you have 100 high school wrestlers or 1,000, let's say, high school wrestlers in the country. How many of them do you think have an unbroken record?
Man, I don't know.
In a year,
I don't know. And it was,
I would say, is less than 1%.
It's slow. And there was something, with Oklahoma having the classes. When junior year started, I told my coach, Ernie Jones, I said, hey, I need you to find who's going to be the 6A champ, 5A champ, and 3A, because I don't want to win 4A.
And then be told,
oh, the 6A. So he made our schedule kind of around it. I had the
you serious?
I had the 6A champ and runner up. I had the 5A champ and the 3A, and then I was 4A. So I didn't want to because I made my goal. I wrote it, dude. I wrote it every day on a whole page of paper. I wrote, I'm an undefeated state champion every day. I'd be in class, just boom, boom, boom on this sheet of paper. And I I believed it. And so I didn't want there to be like an asterisk of like, oh, he's an undefeated state champion, but he never wrestled the 6A guy.
And it's funny because do you know a guy named Cole Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's been on a couple times, and he's a good friend of mine, and that's one of the things that we joke with him about all the time. Because actually, I don't know if you remember a guy named Jordan. He actually works with me here as well too. He wrestled too, but we wrestled, play football, and everything. And then so he was a stud of a football player. Yeah. But we're always like, but I mean, you were in 3A.
That's what I wanted to avoid.
So I almost made that joke. I didn't make that joke, but it's funny that you're actually telling me, because it would have backfired on me, because you're like, dude. So and something right off the gate, you mentioned Ernie Jones, which, in the questionnaire that we have before people come on, one of the questions is, dude, who is your biggest mentor? And that's who you put on there, your high school wrestling coach. And I don't know this guy very well. I remember meeting him and seeing him, and he just looked like this really hardcore dude. So talk to me a little about how come you put him? I know, and one of the things that you said, dude, I just wrote this thing and just believed it. And one of the things that you put, that he used to say, if you believe it and you have persistence, you're gonna have magic. So talk to me a little about I don't think very many people put their high school coach on that, especially with what you've been able to accomplish after that.
Yeah.
Because we're not living in back in high school, dude, after that, you're potentially about to be, and could be in the UFC here, in the next few months, in the next few years, whenever. So talk to me about that.
Man, it was, high school is such pivotal years. You're trying to find your place, fit in, whatever. And he just was so our high school motto was Latin, credere et persistere magicom creant, which is to believe and persist, you create magic. So then I kind of started to understand okay, what is this persistence thing, persistence, belief, self-belief. So then he started and I mean, those practices, dude, it was the hardest thing you've ever endured. And so he would break you down every day and then just give you a TED talk after practice. It was the most motivating thing. And
for how long?
Dude, oh my gosh, it could be an hour.
Are you serious? After you've already practiced, an hour or how many? 2 hours?
Dude, it was ruthless. And some days it's 5 minutes, but some days it's 30. Some days it's like passion, like a true TED Talk. You got goosebumps. You want to go like David Goggins before David Goggins. Truly, that's what.
So you would say that every time he gave a talk, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour, you and most like everybody was probably just pumped up.
Yeah, I think a lot of us took it for granted in the time because we're high schoolers.
Yeah,
but dude, there were some that it's like, whoa, okay, like you leave so inspired. Dude, I would leave. So my junior years when he really started to show me. He said something to me one day. He said, everyone practices. What are you doing extra to be great? And so it was all these little nuances of things he would do. And like, it just instilled so much into me. And like to this day, like before a fight or anything, I call him, I text him. Like I want to hear from him. I need to hear his voice. It's like a comfort thing of like.
I was going to ask you, so you still talk to him, you talk to him before every fight?
Dude, so now I work out with the Broken Arrow High School wrestling for like my training. I'm like a glorified training partner. Yeah, I coach and stuff, but he's like 82 years old. He's the first one in the room and the last one out every day. His son's the head coach, and he is there laying out jump ropes for everyone before they get there, and then he's mopping the mat every day. He's just, there's a level of passion, and like that's something I want to have. I want when, my legacy later in life, like the lives Ernie Jones has touched, like you could bring 100 people on here, over 100 that have been his athlete, and it's like that's the most influential person in my life. He made me who I am. And there were so many just moments, man, of like he would read me like before a big match, before this kid Peyton Bailey, great wrestler. He was the 6A state champion. We had him. Coach Jones could tell I was so nervous, and he just like grabbed my neck and he was like, "These are the moments we wanted. Like you wanted this, so why are you nervous? Just go perform." And it's like
just so calm.
You're right. Like this is what we wanted. We wanted to be here. Like why would I just shell up and not go perform? So there's so much of like, and it's so funny. At the end of every single practice, every day I went there in 7th grade, so 6 years. At the end of every practice, he made us jump rope to Shania Twain, "I Hope You Dance."
Every single day.
Every practice. It didn't matter how long, how short the practice was. You had to jump rope to "I Hope You Dance" by Shania Twain. And
why that song?
Because he said in life where you're gonna hit moments and you're gonna come across these choices where you can sit things out, where you can dance, and I want you to always dance. Dude, he had so much like just powerful stuff.
Dude, that's so crazy. So walk me through your career after that. Right now, like we said, you are where you're at, but you're also like your main job is you're a coach, you're a fitness instructor. Walk me through like how do you, because most people, they like for me, like I played 5 sports in high school, but after high school, it was done for me, right? Some people, they're like play 1 sport, 5 sports, they go and play 1 sport after, and then after college is done for them. So walk me through that, because I, like, again, for people listening, might sound that we're like living in the glory days, but I'm just wanting to take it back to the beginning, because I truly believe your glory days still haven't even happened yet. So walk me through, you graduate high school and then to where you're at now.
So graduate high school, the plan, I was burned out from wrestling, but I was still having to hang on to it. So go wrestle in college, like not even a semester, and I quit. I hated it.
Where'd you go?
I went to OU.
Okay.
And I was done. Hated it. But I had fought twice in high school, like junior, senior year. I took these cage fights. I'd been doing jiu-jitsu. And so like probably like not even 2 months of no sport, I was just like unfulfilled. Couldn't do it. So I was like, I'm going to start fighting. So I start getting these professional fights. They turned me pro when I was 21 years old. I was like this amateur guy. I was just a good wrestler at the time. I had no striking. They turned me pro at 21, have some fights, and then Kyle Crutchmer, I was looking for a main, like I knew I had potential. I was like, I just need my environment. I need people around me to bring me up, So I needed to change my environment. So I was going to look for a major gym to go train at. And Kyle Crutchmer was like, hey, I'm going to go to AK in California. Would you like to go? Dude, it was, I think people have these moments in their life that's like, sit it out or dance, truly. Like I've never even thought of that till right now. But like I had $600 to my name. I had nothing. It made no sense.
Yeah.
I was going to live in the living room and pay like $800 a month in rent in San Jose, California to train with like, Daniel Cormier, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Luke Rockhold, Cain Velasquez, Islam Makhachev. Like, the list is insane. And there was a moment, I'll never forget it, man. I'm walking on like this railroad thing, just thinking to myself, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Called like 3 of my sponsors that I know I can always like count on at that time, and got a plane ticket, and I was out. And so then I get to AK in California, which is, that's like if you're a quarterback and you get to be under Tom Brady, you know?
Yeah. Go
out there, things start, I put together this 8-fight win streak, one of the top prospects unsigned to the UFC in the United States, and was Khabib's one of his top sparring partners for the Conor McGregor fight, was wrestling.
For Khabib?
Yeah, so when Khabib was in camp for Conor, it was a 12-week fight camp. I was one of the top sparring partners that was preparing for the Conor fight.
Wow. For anybody, and it's funny, you kind of made a funny comment about Joe Rogan. I feel like this is Joe Rogan podcast. All we're talking about is UFC and MMA and stuff. But for anybody listening that has no idea anything about that, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the only UFC fighter that has gone undefeated in the entire history of UFC. Is that correct?
Yeah, 29-0.
And he's already retired. He could have probably gone 50 now if he wanted to.
He could have gone more. But man, those Dagestan guys being a part of that, and like, dude, I was sparring Islam before the world knew who Islam was.
Yeah.
Now he's the current UFC lightweight champion. But when Khabib was in that reign, it was just like unlike anything you can put words to. The intensity, the focus, the persistence, it was just insane. But his loyalty to like everyone around him, his love, like you can feel, dude, he was arguably like, he just got back from meeting with Cristiano Ronaldo, comes back to the gym, no matter what the day is, who you are. You could be an 0-10 amateur. He walks around the room and shakes everyone's hand, makes eye contact to him, says good morning, good morning, good morning. But when his dad passed, his dad was like this legend over in like Russia, the Dagestan, Makhachkala area. And his dad passed away due to COVID. And he made a promise to his mom that he would never fight without his dad. So he held that promise to his mom. And that's just the type of guy he is.
So he still has that want in him probably to be out there, you think?
Yeah, but I think he's like pouring that passion into the people around him. So he's got like his cousin Usman Nurmagomedov is the Bellator champ. Islam is like his best friend, little brother, who's champ. Umar is the bantamweight. His next fight is for the UFC title. So now he's the best coach. And dude, I got to experience, I was one of his top training partners, which was unbelievable, for years. And then I was fighting for the Cage Warriors world title, which is a promotion that like feeds into the UFC. It's actually where Conor McGregor came from, Paddy Pimblett, like Michael Bisping, a bunch of names. So I had a world title fight in London at the O2 Arena, and Khabib was at AK. So my whole 10 to 12 week fight camp, Khabib was like my coach for it, and it was nuts.
That's incredible, dude. So how long were you there for? Like whenever you said you were walking through that, you said a railroad you were?
Yeah, I was in like Norman, Oklahoma, trying to make this decision. Like, am I going to stay here and try to make this fight thing happen, or?
How long of a time did you have from whenever they're like, hey, this is opportunity, and then?
I had like 2 days.
2 days.
I made the decision right then.
Dude, sometimes we do need that pressure, though. I feel like I perform best under pressure because, man, one of my favorite quotes is make a decision and move on, right? Even like with waking up and, I mean, imagine if every day you woke up, you had to be like, man, should I brush my teeth or should I not? Like, you just do it, and then you save so much time accumulatively from a month, a year, a lifetime. But even like putting clothes on, I'm just like, sometimes I'll just grab whatever. Like I'm not to the point where like people are like, oh, well, I set my clothes out the night before and everything. I just don't do that. But I'm always like, I don't want to I have like all these shirts, all these pants, and I always grab the same ones because I'm like, I don't want to make a decision. So 2 days, you're like, hey, I'm going to go out there. From when you landed there, how long were you there? Like,
I was there for like 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. It was crazy. And then I went on it's weird for me to just talk about myself. I don't know, but yeah, man, it changed my life. It changed my reality for sure. The biggest thing it did for me was I had these guys Daniel Cormier, and like I love them in all due respect, but it humanized my idols. I thought these guys were something different. I thought there was just something different. That's the reason they are who they are. Then I'm in the trenches with them, doing 2 to 3 days every day with them, and I'm like, man, these guys have off days. These guys have days they don't want to be here, but they show up. So then I kind of started to like journal and take notes. I got big onto like Bob Proctor and like the subconscious and law of attraction and all that type of stuff, you know. And I was like, these guys are just normal. Yeah. They show up when they don't want to. They work hard, and then they're just persistent. They just make it happen. So just my reality started to change, man. I just went on like an 8-fight win streak, didn't lose a fight for like 5-6 years. And then,
and so the question I wanted to ask, whenever you made the decision you were going to go, you had $600 to your pocket in your name. What were people's reactions that you cared about? Like your parents, your high school coach that you were so close with, your close friends, like what were people telling you?
My parents stuck with like the logic, which I appreciate, you know, like, hey, let's talk about this. How does this make sense logistically? Like it doesn't, you know, there's nothing about this that makes sense, but what if?
Yeah.
Like what if things can change? Like what if I can be great? But I knew I couldn't be great where I was. So they both were like the logic side of things. Let's look at this. And they were both like, hey, if this is what you're going to do, you have one shot at this. Here you go. Like, here's your blessing. Coach Jones is just always short and simple. Just go get it. And then all my friends were very supportive. I mean, a lot of them was like, and a lot of times if I'm making, especially now, if I'm like, you know, trying to make a move, I don't like too much input from outside source because it can like sway what I feel and want. And I knew I wanted it.
And it can make a one-day decision into like a month, or in that case, you didn't have a month, so you would have lost out on an opportunity.
Right. And so I told my couple close friends, and they were like, disbelief. They're like, dude, there's no way you're going to be able to go train with them. That's crazy. Which kind of like lit the fire of like, yeah, I can watch this. So I got the support, you know, and then it just all happened.
What did you do while you were out there training, like work-wise? Or like,
didn't
you just train and then you were fighting, and then you were just getting paid for these fights and stuff? And
I'd get paid for the fights. I had sponsors, and then I was like working on with DC. He at AK at that time, he had a youth wrestling club, so I was helping with his youth wrestling club and doing a lot of privates for the kids, and then just sponsors, man, just really hustling sponsors, trying to provide value for the sponsors so they'd like stay on board. And that's how I stayed afloat, man. I had like a couple sponsors that were paying my rent every month. Just lived very minimally, just trained 3 times a day, every day.
How was your social life, your love life, your everything else that comes with life?
There was nothing, man.
It was non-existent?
It was, yeah, it was everything was in this basket, and that was the only grass I was really watering, you know, and I just sold out to it. It's what I wanted. It was my dream, which now I feel like I'm a much more dangerous person because there was a sense of like going into the fight then of like, oh my gosh, if I lose this, like I have nothing else. And so it's like you almost play a little more conservative, you know, like I gotta be safe here. Now I've like met my fiance. We get married in April. I'm back around my family. I didn't see my family for years, dude. I'd only see them on a weekend if they came to a fight. Then they'd be gone.
You weren't even coming back for holidays.
No, I'd be in, and that was part of like my mind, and the time was like giving me an edge on my opposition of like, say I had a fight in March or April, I'd stay there for Christmas and New Year's knowing that like, okay, this guy's definitely just taking time off. I'm going to get an edge here. I was in it. And you know, still I know, but now I know what is required of me to reach the high level, but there's more when you have other things outside of it, you know?
Yeah, I think that for people listening and you're hearing the story, it's easy to just be like in like awe of like, wow, that's so cool. Like all these, I'm not even like a huge UFC guy, but like I recognize 80% of the names that you just, said. And it's like, wow, that's so cool. But then all the accomplishments that you've had, it's easy to be like, wow, like good for him. Right. But people don't ever see, in the previous podcast that we just had, a guy said, I always believe that whatever's done, in the dark will come to light, like behind closed doors. And people never see that side though. Like even thinking about, and I'm glad that you gave that perspective of like, you're like, for people that don't know this, it's like training under Tom Brady. Of course, everybody knows who Tom Brady is. And people see Tom Brady and they see him as like, wow, like it's crazy that he was like this, the best of all time. He played until he was, 43, whatever, how old ever he was. And it's like, but people don't see, like I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, and I've done research on like all the stuff he did. And honestly, I don't think that people see him and they're like, he's making all this money, he's doing all this stuff, but I don't think he enjoyed it as much as people think that they would enjoy it, because that was his job. Like that was what he did. Like he had to get like a couple massages a day, and it was like not massages that you're like relaxing. It was like, dude, I got to get my body ready. He wouldn't eat. Like he would restrict himself on what he could eat, like everything. And it's like, that's what he is where he's at, because he sacrificed all of this. And I think that we live, especially, I mean, you and I mean, I don't know where you're at, but I'm getting to the point where I'm not feeling as young as I am, as far as like my body feels like that. Like, dude, I'll go, and I feel like that's why I'm so like active, because I'm always like, I want to be able to do everything. Right. But I mean, can you believe that? I remember telling people that I graduated in 2012 and they're like, you're a baby. And now I tell people that I graduated high school in 2012 and they're like, dang, that was a long time ago.
You're like, man, what?
So I know we're not that old. I just turned 30 this year. How old are you?
I turned 30 on Monday.
There you go. Well, happy early birthday, bro.
Thank you, bro.
And you get to the point where even in 2012 to now, and where technology's at and everything, it's a lot harder to sacrifice things. So people say, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that. But it's like, what are you willing to pay for that? And not in money wise, or maybe in money wise, what are you willing to pay for that? And people are not willing to pay anything for any type of success. They just want to have success overnight.
Right.
So one of the things that you talked about was that you, and it's funny that you talk about that your parents were, being, there were the logics of everything. And I think that that's whenever the belief, and then also the persistent, because you had to kind of persist there of like kind of having your parents' blessing there and being like, hey, is it okay for me to like, do I truly have your support on this? And that's another thing that a lot of people don't do. So walk me through like pretty much what brought you back.
So the gym kind of started falling apart. That was the main thing. Not falling apart, but DC moved out to Gilroy, which was like 45 minutes away. It's probably like from here to, I don't know, past Coweta, I guess I could paint that picture. Far. Could be retired, said he would only come. So then, a bunch of my training partners were leaving. They were going to gyms in Florida, Dallas, Arizona, Vegas. So, I had to get out. I was like, okay. So my initial plan was to come back, and I was going to go to Dallas. I was like, okay, I'll come spend like a month at home, kind of regroup, and I'll go down to Dallas and train. There's a really good fight gym in Dallas.
What year was that?
Oh, this was like 2 years ago. Okay. Year and a half. Yeah, 2 years ago. December of like 2 years ago. Got here, started doing some jiu-jitsu with some of the guys here, striking with my old striking coach, and I was like, things are nice here. Then I met, who's now my fiance, Sarah, ran into her. We kind of like the day after Christmas, we go on a date, and then, just kind of things kind of started to grow with her, and it was just like, everything kind of started to happen. I enjoyed, like, I got to go play golf with my dad. I got to go to lunch with my grandma. I got to, so all these little things, like go have a weekly lunch at my mom's house, see her more, I think just those things kind of started to mean more to me as I've gotten older. I valued them. So I was like, I have the blueprint. They gave it to me for 8 years, the best gym in the world. Now it's on me to apply that. Like, I'm not one of the guys that you need to hold my hand and, like, I'll get up and I'll get it done. I need good training partners and I need good people around me, which I have. But I just made the decision. I was like, I don't need to be in some major gym. Like, I can make this happen from Tulsa. And that was my dream before going out there, was like, I want to take Tulsa to the UFC. I want to put Tulsa on the map. I love Tulsa. So 2 years ago, I moved back, and then my buddy, do you know Ricky Altizer?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so one of my best friends for years, he was like, hey, you need to just stay here, commit to it, build your business. So then he started so then I kind of shifted focus of, I want to apply all this work ethic and stuff into business. I want to, it's time. So just been here for 2 years, had a fight last year. I've taken this last year to focus on jiu-jitsu and build my business.
So what does it look like? So you said that you're like an unassigned UFC. Go ahead and I want to make sure I'm not butchering it. Is it unassigned UFC?
So it's like unsigned, right? So like you have a couple of the major fight organizations. You have the UFC, PFL, Professional Fighters League, and we'll say Bellator, right? So these are the 3 top ones. So when I fought on the UFC's Contender Series, I won, but I didn't get signed that night to the UFC. So my manager calls after the next morning. He's like, hey, we have offers from Bellator, right? So my dream was never Bellator. You couldn't name one Bellator fighter to me right now.
I don't think
right?
I could.
So my
and what was the third one that you said?
PFL.
Yeah.
Exactly. So my comparison to those two is, Tom Brady, who's been the best Canadian Football League player ever. Exactly. So that's my comparison.
Going all the way back to high school and being a 3A state champion. Like, and you're like, I want to fight everybody else that, like, if I'm going to be in that. So that's your mindset still. Like, you were just like, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to do this and keep doing this, I want to go where I know I people are going to know pretty much.
I think I would, when all the dust settles, when this is done, if I were to have stuck to my guns of the UFC and came up short, I think I'll be more fulfilled and proud of myself than jumping to like a Bellator or something. So yeah, I've just been waiting on the UFC call, staying ready. And there was a time last year, man, it was like 6 months, 8 month time frame where my manager, we were on short notice call for the UFC. So at any time they could call me right now, say, hey, can Kyle Driscoll make weight by Friday? So then I had to keep my weight in check because I'd have to make 155 in 48 hours.
How much you weigh right now?
195.
And then going back to like high school, was it like 130?
I wrestled at 152.
152, okay.
Yeah, junior and senior year. Yeah, 35, freshman, 40, 52. But
and then so if they called you, you're what, 190? What were you walking around whenever that was?
I was like 180, 185.
Okay, 180, and then you would have to make what weight?
155. And
Dang.
so we actually had we had 2 calls that were like, there was one to fight this guy who's like been in the UFC since we were in high school. So it was kind of like an idol become a rival deal.
What's his name?
Vince Pichel.
Okay,
he's just this mean guy. He's got a big mustache. And so my manager calls. I was sitting with my fiance, and he's like, hey, what do you weigh right now? And I lied to him. I was like 185. I was like 177. And he was like, can you make weight in like 6 days? I was like, yeah, for what? He's like, Vince Pichel needs an opponent. UFC's looking for someone. Can you make it? I was like, dude, yes. Right then, threw on the plastics, threw on the hoodie. I had gone through like 3 weight cut sessions in like 24 hours, just getting the weight off. And he calls back, and it didn't go through. That happened twice. And so then I just had to call him, and I was like, dude, this is weighing too much on my mental. Like every day, just cortisol through the roof, like stressed.
So how much weight did you lose? You lost it all both times?
No, I didn't lose it all both times. I lost to I got to about like probably 65. But I've had some extreme weight cuts in the fight.
What's the most weight that you've cut in like the shortest amount of time?
So have you heard of Contender Series?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
which actually I wanted to kind of get into that. I know you brought it up too, but so is that were you part of that, like the show too, or like?
So that's the Ultimate Fighter reality show. So
okay,
that's
gotcha.
The reality TV show. So then the UFC also has, for 10 weeks in the summer, every Tuesday night they have what's called Dana White's Contender Series. So there's 5 matchups, and it's the top guys that are not signed to the organization. Or so you get your matchup. It's basically your job application. You fight in front of Dana White. So we had like been in talks with it. We were looking at it, and nothing was like really solidifying. But I was training hard. I was in California, and he calls me, and I was fighting at 145 at the time, and I weighed 180. And he was like, "Can you make 145 in 13 days?" So in 13 days, I went from 177 to be exact, 177 to 146. 13 days, which was brutal.
Dang.
It was bad.
What did that look like for you? So, I mean, I understand the whole putting the sweats on. People that are listening are like, wow, that sounds amazing. But it's like, no, it's not amazing. Like,
it's not amazing, but there's so why I got into the business I'm in now of like coaching, because so much time out there, like DC and all these guys would have these strength coaches come out and like the top nutritionists in the world, and I'd be around them every day, 3 times a day. Dude, I have journals of like, I have like 5 journals of like basically had apprenticeship under the best nutritionists and strength and conditioning coaches in the world, and I was just getting free knowledge.
Yeah.
And I was just, dude, I'd ask them a million questions, and I'd go back and just journal everything. So with that, you know, it wasn't just a crash weight cut, like eat lettuce and drink water. It was like, okay, the first 5 days, you know, I'm eating every 3 hours. I'm eating like 4 ounces of chicken, some asparagus. 3 hours after that, I'm having some fruit with some non-salted peanut butter. Then I'm having, so everything was like scheduled, right? And then each week I only had 13 days. So like every 4 days things are changing. And then the week of, you cut out all sodium. So there's a complete science to it. And, but yeah, that final water cut, dude, was.
How long do you do that for? The water cut?
The water cut is usually the week of the fight. So you'll like water load. So a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. So then that fight week, you cut out all sodium. So you're still eating. I'm eating chicken, but it's like with Miss Field's non-salted seasoning, right? Non-salted peanut butter for good fats. You can have some berries, veggies, stuff like that, but no sodium. So then you're water loading. So day 1 of the fight week, I'll drink 2 gallons. There's 16 pounds of water, no sodium. I'm going to be peeing a lot. Next day, 2 gallons again. Maybe 3 days out from weigh-in, I'll have a gallon. 2 days out from weigh-in, I'll have like around a gallon. The day before weigh-in, you just sip cold water. So then you have like, hopefully I'm like within the 16 pounds, right? Because I've water loaded 2 gallons. I have no sodium, implement some supplements like a uva ursa dandelion root to like a diuretic in a sense to pee it out. So then if I'm within the 16-pound mark, maybe I'm 10 over the day before weigh-ins. I've water.
So you're 10 up to 10 pounds over the day before you have to weigh in.
Yeah, in some cases.
Like
yeah.
average, like just an estimate. Yeah.
8 to yeah.
So this is what I mean, because I experienced cutting weight like in high school, but this is like
this is different. This is science. Because now I have my body programmed, right? So through this water cut, no sodium, my body's holding on to none of this water. Then we apply sweet sweat, which is like something you can get from GNC. Yeah. And then you go into the sauna or a hot bath, and you just sweat. And then you just water cut it, and you just sweat it all out. And I mean, I say it like that, but dude, you're stuck in a sauna. You're doing like 20 minutes in, like you're dying. You're hurting.
Yeah.
But if you do it right, and you're within the amount of water that's in the body, you're not cutting into muscle tissue. You're going to be healthy, right?
So how quickly do you gain that back? I mean, you gained the 10 pounds fairly quickly right after weigh-in. Like within how many hours?
Oh, dude, I blow up pretty big.
Yeah.
It's I actually had my last fight in California, San Diego, and the California Athletic State Commission was like coming after me because they do like this rehydration deal. And you know, I do it to a science. So first hour after weigh-in, I don't eat. They banned IVs because guys were weighing in and being so dehydrated and then trying to do IVs and like veins were rupturing. So like it was bad.
Oh my gosh.
So they banned IVs. So now you get like a 1 liter bottle and it's just basically an oral IV. So you have 4 1 liter bottles. It has like coconut water, creatine, essential amino acids, all types of stuff. Then you get to eating carbs, trying to avoid fats, carbs, some protein, right? I weighed in Thursday. The fight was on a Friday. I weighed in Thursday morning at 155. And Friday night, I walked in the cage at 185. So I gained 30 pounds in 24 hours.
Oh, my God.
Or a little, like,
Did you feel
hours.
bloated?
No, I felt great.
You felt amazing.
Yeah. It was, yeah, it's just, but God, dude, Islam Makhachev, I'm not sure if you know that. He's the current lightweight champion. Dude, he would come in and start fight camp at like 205, 210 pounds and cut to 155.
How tall is he?
Like 5'11", 6 foot.
Dang,
But
dude.
yeah, crazy.
So walk me through this last few minutes that we have here. I'm curious on, like, talk to me about your business, where it's at right now, where you see it going. I know that you're still there, you know, the dust hasn't settled yet on your, you know, fighting career and dream. But I think that one thing, and actually I told you that I like these headphones because I'm like very like, and then earlier I was like, I was going to say something and I forgot, but I do remember now. One of the things that, like whenever like I'm interviewing like a loan officer, one of the questions that I ask is if this doesn't work out, what do you plan on doing? And I can easily know if I'm going to hire somebody if they say, well, I mean, let's just say that I used to be a teacher, I can go back to that, or I used to be X, Y, and Z, I can go back to that. Because at that point, it makes me not want to hire that person. Why? Because the only people that truly have success, because I go back to whenever you were said, I got to the point where I'm sitting here and I'm like, if I lose this fight, I lose everything. So I have no choice but to win. So because there's so many people, like even in the NFL, dude, like you see all those people that they're like, you know, they have no other choice. Like if they don't make it there, they're most likely going to go back home and you know, go back to where they came from. And a lot of these places are not good places. So, so walk me through like that mindset and transition into your new business and kind of where you want to take that. Because I think that's one of the smartest things that you could have done is come back and start that. And then also, one of the biggest things that I always talk about, I always ask people, are you a believer on like a quitter never wins and a winner never quits? And there's a lot of people, like you said, if you would have went to Bellator and maybe stayed in this for, you know, 5 more years, 10 more years, whatever the average span is, it's like most of the time those people should have quit a long time ago. So, dude, I'm even more happy talking to you, knowing the kind of the moves that you made to try to like be like realistic of like, well, hey, even if I do make it, I'm not going to fight forever. So what's next right here, right? And then also just being smart of like, hey, if the door knocks, I'm ready for what I truly want. But in the meantime, I gotta you know, plan for my future, right? You're going to get married and start a family and all that stuff. So walk me through, like you said it, I learned all this stuff. I can also transition it to business. What does your business look like right now? And then what's the plan for that? What are the goals for that?
Yeah, man. So it was actually, to set the stage, it was during COVID. When COVID hit, our gym was shut down. Health department was sitting outside the gym. They were going to make an example out of us. So I didn't have training. You know, I was used to training 3 times a day. It's all I had. That was my identity. It's all I was. But it's a tough game making money in the fight game, man. It's tough. And
what does the average fighter make? Like,
dude, it's absolutely insane. So your first fight in the UFC, you make $12,000 and $12,000. So if I win, I make $24,000, and if I lose, I make $12,000, which is crazy. And then they monetized it with the Reebok and Venom, so you can't go get sponsors. Guys were making like $250,000 on sponsors, but then Reebok came in and bought it out and monetized it or monopolized it and said, hey, you can only have our sponsor and we're only going to pay you like $4,500. So screwed the whole game up. So it kind of I started seeing the fight game from a different angle. I was like, okay, I'm chasing this and this is awesome and I love this, but like, say I do get signed. I go win my first fight. Okay, I make we'll say $30,000, but then I owe like 5% to a manager, 5% to coaches, things like that. Okay, I fight twice a year. I didn't even make $50,000 that year. But so yeah. I started to look at it like this.
Is that the max you can fight? Like
you can fight 3, but when you're thinking about fighting these guys that are in the UFC, these are tough fights, right? So you don't know what's going to happen. You got to plan to like, you're going to be banged up. So 3 fights in a year in the UFC is a phenomenal year. Okay, so and your pay goes up. If you win, you go 12-12, 14-14, 16-16. You get a 4-fight deal, then you renegotiate, and you can start to make a little bit more money, right? But I just started to look at it like that, and I was like, man, I do want a family one day. And so I actually talked to Cole Taylor.
Oh, you did?
Ricky got me in touch with Cole Taylor, and Cole Taylor was like, I kind of told him I got this NASM certification. I got a couple of those, and I think there's a way I can make money here. He was like, put up a post on your Instagram. It says I'm looking for 5 people that want to lose weight, right? I did, and I got like 40 replies. I was like, dude, what now? So then, dude, Cole, thank you. He showed me, like, he really, like, troubleshot, showed me everything about, like, hey, you're going to get this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Showed me the way a little bit. And then I just put my nose on the grindstone with it, and I just started to build it, got my first client, got another client, started getting momentum. Now I have crazy momentum, man. I'm, like, within the app, getting tons of clients, hired a business coach. So, I figured everyone has a coach. Like, I had a coach for jiu-jitsu, wrestling. Well, I don't know how to scale a business. I'm new to this. I need a coach. I need someone to show me. So got a coach, going through just learning everything that comes with the business side of things. And, man, my goal for next year, I'm really proud of, like, how I've come along with sales and learning all that and getting clients into the app to, really it's a passion about making them better people. Like, I see your habits. Your habits are, dude, you're taking an ice bath every morning. You're running. You're cycling. After a cycle, you're pushing your kid. Like, dude, that's inspiring stuff. And I think so many people, like, see that and they kind of feel like, oh, I just don't have that. And so what I want more than anything is to, like, bring that out of people. Like, how can I make you better? That's what I want, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to keep it like that, right? Very lead with my heart.
Dude, that's so good, because 2 things on that is that you say that people see that on social media and then they're like, I can't do that, right? Well, my wife sees me do all this stuff. She got front row seat on all that stuff. And she's like, I don't understand how you can do this. She goes, I would never be able to do it. And I said, you know why you could never do it? And she goes, why? And I go, because you're telling yourself you can't. And then so she's hated running, like, her entire life. And then she's like, you really think I could do, like what's the longest race I could do? And I said, I think you could do a marathon. And she goes, no, you're just saying that. And I'm like, okay, let's say I truly believe that you could run a half marathon tomorrow. Like, if there was a gun to your head, like, you would do it, right? That's how I think of things.
Yeah.
And then so she starts on this plan, and then I would run with her after I'm already doing this stuff, because I'm, like, trying to support her. And then this past weekend, she ran her first half marathon.
Saw that.
And, dude, she ended up doing that, was it almost 20 minutes faster than she thought she would? And she was almost getting a little defensive whenever I was like, no, you're gonna do it in 2:30. Like it's it's a non-negotiable. And then she's like, well, you're still going to be, she's the opposite of me, which it balances me out. But she's like, are you still going to be proud of me if I said, I'm going to say no, because I don't want you to have a choice. And she's, like, seeing, like, kind of like a different side of me. Like, because this is how I am, like, with myself and with other people. Right. And then, but dude, seeing, like, dude, I ran the half marathon, and it's funny. I posted this, and you would have thought that I didn't run it, because everything was about her. Because it's funny that, like, people like you and I, like, through your entire career, and then myself, on just any success that you have, I don't know about you, but would you say that you are able to enjoy it more if it's, like, you helping somebody else rather than, like, your own accomplishments? And I think, and the guy before this, we just had another podcast, and the guy talks about it, and he goes, man, anytime that I'm trying to help people buy a house to make a paycheck, that's whenever my business just goes down. He goes, when I'm making it about helping people and truly, like, educating people, dude, that's whenever, like, I'm making the most money. And that's exactly what you just said. And, dude, just make sure that you don't forget that, because that's truly what's going to get you to the next level, and you're never going to have to worry about, like, what's next. But, dude, thank you so much for coming. I truly appreciate it. I'm glad that we finally made this happen. The last question I have is what would you tell somebody right now that is maybe struggling with their identity when they look at themselves in the mirror, as far as, like, fitness wise? I know that that's kind of your expertise. And so like, what's the first step?
Man, the first step, I preach it, consistency over intensity. I think so many people, they don't know where the first step is, right? And it's just that, get that ball down the hill. Just in consistency over intensity. String together 4 days. String together three days in 1 week, then 3 days the next week. And it doesn't have to be crazy. Go for a walk outside. Then do some kneeling push-ups. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy. There's so much science that like shows the benefits of a walk outside. Like, go for a walk outside. So I think that's the most important thing I can say, just to keep it simple, is just consistency over intensity, man.
No, that's great, because sometimes people think I'm going to start working out and I'm going to go for 2 hours a day every day. And that lasts for maybe a month, if not like 2 weeks, to where if you just go say, I'm going to go on a walk every single day, non-negotiable. And you know, you can literally be doing other stuff while you're doing a walk. Then at that point you're like, man, I've been doing this for like 6 months.
That becomes your standard.
Yeah. And then so you're like, what can I do?
Standard.
Dude, that's so good. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Where can people find you?
Man, I'm on Instagram at Kai Driscoll. That's my biggest platform at the moment. So
I mean, that's what got your business started.
Yeah,
dude, I love it, dude. Sure. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, bro.